So everybody who's here, welcome. Everybody who's watching this on the recast or some various upload, also welcome. This is the webinar, 90 Days to Crush Your Goals and Build a Better Legal Life, obviously with Summit Success International and Answering Legal. And with me today is the amazing and always helpful Doug Brown, who is as he likes to call himself, a recovered lawyer. But we're back with Doug in the first of this webinar series, where we're going to do a deep dive on the essential disciplines to help you grow your law practice profitably and live a life that you enjoy and deserve. We're back with Doug today because so many of you asked for more after our last webinar, which was how to grow your practice and avoid burnout, 5 habits that will lead to a more balanced and successful legal life. So today we're here with the first discipline. If you'd like a link to that, we'll have a link for everybody for the first webinar after this is over today. We'll send it out. But today we're going to do a deep dive on the first and most important habit that will help you grow your law practice profitably and allow you to live a life that you enjoy and deserve.
Well, Nick, I'm so excited to be here with you today, especially because of this idea that you can have a life that you enjoy and deserve as a lawyer. Yes, you can have both. And you're here, you're in the right place. I have a few requests. I ask you to suspend disbelief and your lawyerly disbelief for the next few minutes, because it's that disbelief and skepticism that makes you a good lawyer, that keeps you from being able to get where you really want to go, not believing that change is possible. I've heard it before. I've tried it before, but I assure you these strategies work 100% of the time if you actually do it. So I invite you, that's polite coaching speak for do this, to focus with us here today. Decide right now that you're going to take action on one thing at least that you've learned. And listening not to learn, but to figure out how am I going to put this into action? And that frame is very important to actually getting stuff done. And so if you have other things going on, distractions, other screens open, be here with us, please. You'll be glad you did make this investment. We are in the midst of a once in a generation opportunity for you to grow doing work you really want to do, to maximize your revenue and profit, create real financial security, achieve peace of mind and satisfaction, even coming out of the pandemic. And more importantly, turn your practice, create it into something that will take care of you and your family well into the future, even when you decide to stop working. And you can have all those things.
I love how the timing of this turned out. So we're obviously currently at the end of the first quarter of 2022. Actually, this is perfect. It really is the last day of the quarter. And we're here to share essential planning strategies, something that everyone can use heading into the next quarter. And planning is an important part of everything that I do here at Answering Legal, because we need to stay on top of a lot of things in order to provide the maximum value for our clients. So for us, and for myself really, that usually looks like a big picture strategic plan, not only for a couple of years out, but an annual plan and a quarterly review of how we're doing and how we need to adjust my annual plan as we review each quarter. So there are essential disciplines for every business. But Doug, I know that you've noticed that it's not very, I'm going to say that, even though it might not sound nice to you, it's not very common in the legal profession, especially with small and mid-sized firms, to follow these disciplines. Do you have any sort of explanation for why that is?
Well, I see that too. I see so many lawyers operating without workable goals or a plan to make it happen. And they just want to match last year, or my private coaching clients, when we first start talking, is I've got to bill as many hours as possible, 8 to 10 hours a day. Okay, I need to get as many clients as possible. And I need to take time away to recharge without the wheels coming off. And with all of that pressure, they feel like they're on a hamster wheel, they're exhausted. Each year is just a repeat of the last. It's almost like they're in a pie eating contest where the prize is more pie. And the reason this happens is because lawyers has never been taught the kind of planning disciplines. They never really were taught this. I didn't learn it in law school. Heck, I didn't learn it in business school. And then when you're coming up as a lawyer, you're not learning it by osmosis either. And then you're so busy in the weeds, billing your hours, you don't feel like there's any time to plan. And by the way, the plan blows up on first contact with the day. So it's a waste of time. I should just charge ahead and hope for the best. But when the real opportunity here is when you know how to set your goals and plan effectively and work the plan, you'll have a very clear roadmap of where you want to go and why, just like a business, like setting your GPS in your car. You'll use that purpose to set your priorities and drive your daily action and not be distracted by shiny objects. And you'll feel like, more importantly, Nick, you feel like you're in control as opposed to just living on this hamster wheel.
I know that I love listening to you and working with you because it's a good reminder for me to slow down. And so I know we're all here. We want more of what you're talking about in our lives. But tell us, where do we start?
Yeah. Well, let's get right to it. Starting is a struggle for many people when we talk about planning, because they start at the daily level for the tactical stuff that's already on your plate. And we do have a Power Principles of Time Mastery program for that. Where I want to suggest we start today is all the way at the beginning. We start with the foundation of the annual planning principles and how to do that, and then break it down and go over what you have to look at each quarter of what you're checking every 90 days to make sure you're on the plan, so you understand the big picture and then the quarterly. Does that sound like a good way to approach it?
It does. I know the audience is anxious to finally hear your tips, get into action. So everybody, I just want to let you know, we're going to share these slides and the templates that Doug uses to format all of these tips that he's going to give us. So don't worry about that. We're going to send that out after this. Each of the things that we're going to present come with a worksheet so that you can use and practice these things yourself.
Okay. So the most important foundation of all planning and is the building blocks of what you value as a person, as an attorney, and as a business person. You know, I used to believe, Nick, that I was clear on my values in my head. And I thought, well, I don't need to do these exercises. I know what my values are. And I was wrong. What I thought was clear in my head came out on the page for the first time as kind of muddled and contradictory. It was a mess. The only way for me to get clear on this, and I've been doing this for a long time, was to write it out. Oftentimes, I'm suggesting we write this out longhand because your cognition is better, especially for those of us in their 50s and older, is when you're processing by hand. So the core questions that so many attorneys just fail to answer or don't want to answer is, why are you in the job you have now? And many will say, well, I just kind of fell into it. Yeah, that's probably true. For most lawyers, that's kind of how it happened. But why have you decided to stay? So what is it about your job you love and where you're doing it? Because you're making a decision every day, every week, every month, every year to stay. So you start with that and then say, well, what do I really value? And then we're going to have an exercise for that in a minute. And you want to look at how you're spending your time. And we're going to show you how to do that. Because when you can spot the disconnect, there's so many disconnects between what you say you value and where you spend your time.
Yeah, I actually had this problem a couple of years ago. And you're right, you choose your life every day. But I had this disconnect with what I was doing, and I felt it was, I don't know, I was in a rut. I felt like my work days were really long, and I didn't know why I was doing what I was doing. I had fallen into it. You know, it's a paycheck. I need the money. So I sat down and I figured out, why do I do what I do? What is my real goal? What does my profession boil down to? And it's not just answering phone calls for lawyers. It's not just making money. It's not even helping lawyers make money or giving them a better, easier life. my goal and my mission and my why is that I believe in parity, which is to say that I believe that there should be a level playing field between the behemoth corporate-backed law firms and the sole practitioner inside of a courtroom. So what I aim to do is make sure that even the smallest of law firms can compete with the big ones. That's my why. I find that really empowering. I find my why drives me to get out of bed in the morning and do what I do every day. So I know that what you're talking about helps, because I felt like I was in a rut, and now I get excited about what I do. It gives me meaning. So I'll hand it back to you, Doug, because I'll talk for 3 hours.
I love that. You mentioned before, I joke that I'm a recovering lawyer. I'm not sure I'll ever be recovered, but I'm one of those people that went from a law practice with a firm to in-house into business and industry roles. I taught for 6 years. I did a lot of different things on the way to doing what I was really meant to do. And when I look back and think about, why do I do all this and what can I do to help my clients now? It's not unlike yours, Nick. It's the law and lawyers we're some of the most important professionals in the world. We protect the rule of law. We provide so much value beyond what we do for our clients, just in society. And my mission, my why, is to make the business, help lawyers be better at running their businesses so they can make more money and have more time with their families and their community and not be so massively unhappy. And if I can help lawyers with that, whether it's with planning or time management or managing their firm, and I can look back and say that lawyer didn't have to wonder what if, they weren't stuck, they feel like their career was a career well spent, then that's a huge win for me. So that's why we do this. And when I do this work with my clients, we do start with the why. Sometimes they don't know, they need help to figure out what it is because they're so close to it. But this is the next exercise. So you can, you'll get the slide deck, or you can take a piece of paper and fold it in half. And on the left side is what I say. That's what I say I value, what's important. So you might value taking care of clients. You might value being there for your kids. You might value professional development, whatever it is you value. And on the right-hand side, you're going to say, where do you spend your time? And if you're like most people who come to me for help with their practice, and most lawyers I know, they look at it, and as they're writing the where do I spend it, they realize, oh, this is not good. So when you stop to write it out, and unless we face it, and when we face it, we can deal with it. If we ignore it, we can't deal with it at all.
I find that when you stop to write out your values and you see the contradiction, it makes more sense when you see it side by side. If I say that I really value time with my family, but I spend all of my time working on my business or working in my business, then I know that there's a strong disconnect there. If I say I value money and I'm making plenty of money, well, then I know that there's not a disconnect there. And what I can do is I can set these things side by side and make sense of them all.
Yeah.
So
it's different. It's different for every person. Let's go to the next one and kind of put some more structure around this, because I know that lawyers like structure and process, and because I are one. So this is what we call the wheel of life exercise, because you're not a machine. You're not just a lawyer. You're a person and you have a whole life. So in this exercise, you'd rate yourself on each of the main areas as it feels right now. So if, and you could change the titles if you wanted, because I know that, we lawyers like to edit, but the basic categories in this exercise are your career, your family, your health, prosperity, whatever that means to you, serving your community, your significant relationship or ships, the environment you spend your time in, whatever spirituality means to you, friends, and fun and creativity. And the idea of the exercise is you plot where each one is on a scale of 1 being low to 10 being high. You get to decide what's a 1 or a 10, and look at the wheel and say, well, where should I be spending more time? And because all these things are connected. And then you can say, for the next quarter, what do I want to have accomplished? Get a different color pen and say, well, I want to work on having some more meaningful time with friends, or I want to have a plan for my career, or I want to make more money without working more hours. But you don't want your wheel to be flat, because flat wheels don't go anywhere. Right, Nick?
That's right. And it's important to understand that nobody has a perfect wheel. This is just an exercise to identify where you might get caught up. I mean, obviously, if you've got only half a wheel, you're going to have a very hard time driving on that wheel. And I know everybody else is weird but me, right? So we all have different things that we value. Like, for instance, I would say that I value my career, my prosperity, and my significant relationship with my wife a lot more than I value fun and creativity or community service, unfortunately, or maybe the environment, right? The environment that I'm in, because I like the money and the paycheck more. Well, that's okay. I have to recognize that if my environment is toxic and affecting other areas of my life, that I have to make a change about it. But as long as my wheel and I feel it's sufficient, I have different values. So what do you think about that, Doug?
Yeah, I think that's right. This isn't a competition with anyone else. There's no prize for perfection. It's simply a tool for you to identify the things that are troubling you, because most lawyers I talk with, well, everybody wants more time and more money, right? When more productive and more clients. But when you get behind that, there's this, especially as you get into your 50s, there's this lingering sense of dissatisfaction. Like, my money's okay, and but something's missing, and you're not sure how to put your finger on it. So when you do this from a planning perspective, this helps you articulate what it is that might be causing that discomfort, so you can deal with it, because unaddressed nagging discomfort tends to grow and distract you. So the other way into this exercise, Nick, is to kind of give yourself easy for me to say, a clean sheet of paper. And lawyers really struggle with this, is answer these questions for yourself, because so few lawyers give themselves permission to even ask these questions. But when they do, it's really powerful. So the first one is, what if you could have anything you wanted in your future without limitations, what would it be? Now, you might say, I want to win the lottery and go to Tahiti. Okay, you could do that. That might be more of a stretch, but within, if you could have it, not worrying about how you get there, what would it be like? And to write it out in full Dolby surround sound, stereo, and Technicolor. I'm dating myself with those terms, but you probably understand. But high definition, the highest definition possible, in as much detail as you can. And then, what would it mean to you if you had achieved that future? What kind of difference, if you fast forward 20 years, will have achieving that make in your life? And then, what if you didn't? Because once you anchor in what you really want, and you really want that, the prospect of not getting it is a huge motivator. And then, most important of all, is what's one thing you can do to start? If there's one blocker in your way, what is it? And what's one thing you can do to get around it? So now I want to move into shift from goals and vision into GSD, or getting stuff done, right? Because we're all lawyers, we want to get stuff done. One of the most important and simple disciplines you can do right now at the end of the quarter, like today or this weekend, are answering these three questions. What should I start? What new things should I start? What things should I stop or say no to? And what should I continue? That's the point of the quarterly process, is to make an intentional decision in this model of start, stop, and continue. So how do you decide what to do? Well, I like to start with the good stuff. What were my successes over the last quarter? Even if I didn't achieve my goals, how much progress did I make towards my goals? What did I accomplish? What things did I get done? What went particularly well? What am I proud of? And this is all part of the template, the planning template that I'm going to send you this afternoon after we're done. And when I did this for the first time, when I got to this last question, Nick, how did you celebrate? It stopped me cold, because I'm one of those people that was in the habit of, it's done, check it off, go on to the next thing. Done, check it off, go on to the next thing. Done, check it off, go on to the next thing. And I wouldn't give myself any time to celebrate or even recognize the progress that I've made. And when you have to stop and ask yourself, how did I celebrate? And realizing that you should, and that it's essential, because celebration actually gives you a dopamine hit. You need to, I know we've talked about, you win a client, you do a high five, you do something to celebrate. So
I want to cut you off a quick second. Does anybody have a good celebration that they use for like what Doug is talking about, landing a good client, closing up a case, settling, anything like that? Type it in the chat. Let me know.
Yeah. How do you celebrate, or how would you celebrate if you could?
As Joe knows, my colleague in here, Joe, whenever anything goes good, lunch on Nick. Thanks, Joe. No, we high five. Well, sometimes lunch.
The celebration, it's just an important to take the moment, whatever that is, whether it's a high five, or you're taking Joe out to lunch, or you're just sitting there reflecting on, this went really well. But it's important to take that time, because if you don't, there's a lot of research around how mentally exhausting it is, and it contributes to a lot of the mental health issues in the legal profession. But that's a different program.
You are right, though, Joe. I do owe you lunch, so we'll.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me when. So the next thing that we want to, where did my mouse go? There we go. Okay. That moment when your mouse, there it is, disappears on your screen. Okay. So the celebration is also about moments. So consistency of your service, being a great lawyer, is good, but people remember moments. And this message was really brought home for me in Chip and Dan Heath's book called The Power of Moments. And it's a great read. And the idea is that even out of a very difficult situation, let's say you don't win the case, or there's a deposition that goes very badly, how can you create a magical moment out of a bad situation for that client, and that so they feel appreciated? And moments don't have to be an accident. They shouldn't be. The best story of, Disney is famous for magical moments. And I saw Doug Lip speak once, and he said, that imagine Disney, and we've actually been in this situation. You're around Disney, everybody's tired. You spend $6, maybe now it's 10, for a giant thing of popcorn. You hand it to Junior, he drops it on the ground. Now everybody's upset. Junior's crying, the mother's upset, the father's like, I just wasted $10 on that. Every Disney employee is empowered and encouraged to replace that for free immediately, because they're trying to take that moment of everybody's frustrated and just do the simple kindness. So when you're thinking about moments you want to create for yourself, and don't let them be by accident, plan for them. So ask yourself, looking backwards, what did I create? What magic moments did I create for people? What magic moments did I experience? Why did they work, and why not? If you plan for those, you can deliver them. And this is really important, because when you create those moments, that increases your referrals. That makes people feel really good about you, and it makes you feel good too. And I know one of the things, Nick, that you and your team at Answering Legal is trying to do is to deal with that moment when the client calls the lawyer, and creating that magic moment for them, right?
Well, yeah. First, I want to comment and say that for $10, you should replace the popcorn, Disney.
Of course.
No, but we focus on, and we really help create those magic moments. It sounds corny, but I've never heard of somebody really calling a lawyer in an emergency for a fun happy, joyous experience in their lives. We're talking about calling about divorce or child custody, or filing for bankruptcy or against foreclosure, criminal defense, obviously not fun, in an injury, things like that. So what happens when that person reaches out is the first impression matters so much that if they really reach a representative of your firm who cares and takes the time to listen to them and ensures a smooth transition into becoming a client, that person's going to remember that. So that's a moment that you can create. But it's also important to recognize the moments that work for you, whether that's doing a really good job for a client and getting a really good review for your business, or really taking pride in the fact that you cared enough to really curate an experience for all the people that come to you for help.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about, Doug, I know that we're trying to talk about creating goals, right?
Yes, we're going to talk about goals. So let's move on to that. And I'll just tag one little thought on, is that the people who come, if clients had any other choice, they would not come to a lawyer. So the opportunity is huge because the expectations are so low. All right, the goals that work. Once you decide what you want to create, you're going to need a plan. Business schools teach a way to do this, and we do it with our clients. And I know that, Nick, you have a version of this too. It's each goal you set has to pass the SMARTER test. You might have heard of these as SMART goals, but I like SMARTER better. So is it really specific? Can you measure how you did? Are you making progress? And this is for every of the 5 goals you set for the year. This is the test you have to pass. Is it achievable? Is it a stretch goal? Sometimes if you set a stretch goal, I'm going to be perfect at something, the first mistake, you give up. So perfection is not a good stretch goal. Is it relevant to the values that we talked about earlier? Because if you can't connect it to what's really important to you and your values, then it probably isn't a goal worth working on. Do you have a deadline? Is it exciting and interesting? Especially if you tend to find yourself only working on things that are interesting and exciting. And is there a reward associated with it? Is there a celebration? So here's how you go about setting those in a little bit more detail. First, you want to write it down. If you can't, when I did this in business and I would try to set goals without writing them down, and I talked to 5 people, I would talk to about it differently each time. And when I finally got frustrated and said, heck, I'm going to write this down. And I realized I wasn't being clear. I was talking about it differently to each person. So write it down. Set a completion date, but not just a completion date, key milestones so that your deadline doesn't creep up on you like you're a sophomore in college trying to, pass the latest test. What's the purpose of the goal? Why is it a must? Not a nice to have, but a must. Back to that old question of what happens if you don't achieve it. And then what specific actions will you take to get started and by when? When you answer those questions, you've got a smarter goal, and you'll be not only able to achieve it better for yourself, but now you can explain it to other people. And you might even ask them to say, show them this test. Does it pass the test? How could I be more specific? How could I be more relevant?
Yeah, I'm a very
Yeah, go
anecdotal person. Sorry, Doug.
No, go.
But every time that we talk about this, I think of, and I like to give examples of when I bought my first house with my wife.
Mhm.
And it seemed like such a daunting process. I was a little bit younger, and I just didn't know what to do. So we wrote it down. We had to outline what we were looking for in a house. We wanted, 3 bedrooms because we're looking to start a family. It didn't have to be too big, but we wanted a backyard. I wanted a garage. I didn't end up getting it, but it was on the maybes, but I wrote it down and I had all these things categorized. And then we set completion and milestone dates, which was see a certain number of open houses per weekend, get in touch with a realtor, look up in this area, look into this school district, all of that. And then we were really clear on why we were doing this, is because we were getting married. We wanted to start a life together, and we had a really small apartment for 2 people. And we were tired of living there. So I think what we often do is we often get caught up on you know, I'm going to fail, so I might as well not start. So I had to ask myself, what happens if I don't achieve this, right? Am I a failure? Am I don't know, what if I lose my job and I get kicked out of the house, or all of these things? And I realized that my fear of failure was holding me back from even starting to even look. And I knew that the first specific steps that I could take was just to make a phone call. And once I outlined it in steps for myself, I saw that it wasn't just one big project I was tackling, like how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And I know that when I break it down into smaller achievable things, it makes it a lot easier for me to eat the elephant. So Doug, I love your smarter goals. I've heard of SMART goals, but I like smarter, because the reward at the end for me was I bought a house, I moved in, and I like that house, and I'm going to die in that house because I ain't.
Yeah. So when you're doing this, and our annual planning template will help with this, is you might have a lot of ideas for goals, but you don't want to have too many. Your big goals, you want to have no more than 5. And an example, I had 2 examples, very specific, Nick, for lawyers, and then we're going to get to project planning. The first was a more senior lawyer who was making plenty of money. He wanted to have more time in his life. And I said, so how many hours are you billing right now? And he said, well, I bill, 8 to 10 hours a day. I said, is that necessary? He's like, well, I've always been the top biller. Like, is that necessary? Like, I don't know. So I should bill less hours. I'm like, okay, give me a number. When are you going to start doing it? So instead of billing 8 hours a day, I'm going to bill 6. I don't even care what the number is. But unless you put a number on it and give yourself a date, it is not going to happen. Another lawyer, small firm practitioner, wanted to make more money than last year. I said, how much did you make last year? I got my calculator out. He told me. I said, okay, how much more do you want to make this year? He said, I don't know, 20%. I said, okay, what's your billable rate? Figure out the billable rate. How many hours you want to, how many days a week you want to have vacation? You go do the math. One thing led to another. He says, well, okay, I need to bill 25 hours a week. Okay. That sounds really low for people, but that's what he needed to do. But once he did that, he was crushing it because he knew he had to make 25. But before he was specific on a number, it was just as much as possible and it was soft and squishy. So if you want to make these things happen, you got to get specific. Now, you've set your goals. I want to talk about project planning. And, I thought about this, Nick, and I think very few lawyers actually care about project planning because they don't understand the impact of it. But in the business world, if you don't have a basic understanding of these essential disciplines, then it'll be very difficult to get things done. And you don't have to be a project manager. You don't have to run fancy spreadsheets. It doesn't even have to be a long process, but it's essential. So what I'm about to share, you should use for your goals, but you can also use it in the rest of your business just by looking at these steps. So here are the basic 8 steps. And we have a whole program for this, and we're not going to go that deep in it, but I just want to get the importance of how to do a plan, because even if you searched on the internet for this stuff, you'd find people trying to sell you software and things that are way more complicated than you need right now. So here are the steps. 1, set goals. Cool, we just did that. Step 1 complete. Gather the requirements. You need to know what needs to be done in order to achieve the goal. What's the scope of the project? What's in scope? What's out of scope? Get the information up front so you have a good understanding of what needs to be done. You might write that down on a piece of paper or on Post-it notes and put them on the wall. Now that you've got the major tasks, what's the best way to accomplish them? Put them in some sequence or order so that you can create a timeline for them. You might even put the chunks of time on your calendar to make sure they get done. I have to hit this milestone by this date because these other things have to happen afterwards. The fourth step is you have to allocate resources. So where are you going to get the tools to get this done? People, money, equipment. What are the fifth step is what's the risk? Every project has risk. So what are the risks? Where could it go off the rails? Where might you get held up? And if that happens, how do you know and what do you do? The sixth one, Nick, is kind of my favorite. It's communication planning. So few people, establish effective communication between the project stakeholders. That means not only when things go right, but when things go wrong, how do you talk to people? Number 7 is a change management process, because change is going to happen. So how are you going to deal with that? And then probably the most important one is, I know more than one most important one, is review and closure. What happened, what worked, tying up the loose ends, and then updating your systems and processes. So I just gave you a whole lot, but when you understand that those disciplines, right, you got to gather the requirements, sequence the task, make sure you've got the right resources. What could go wrong? How are you going to communicate? What about changes and closure? Then you at least have the basic structure to make sure you're considering everything in your plan. So attorneys need lots of help with this because we tend to skip steps. We tend to make up our own version of a process, and we make a lot of assumptions. And when you take time to write it down, it gets much better. Which is why we have, Nick, one of your favorite things, and it's called a quarterly business review. And in a quarterly business review, you're going to answer some basic questions, right? How am I doing on the plan? Most specifically, how am I doing on my income goal? How much money did I want to make? What services or products or kind of clients will lead to that? How many of them do I need to have? Marketing. Is my marketing generating the leads I need to have the sales conversations I need to have to be able to close client relationships, acquire new clients, and meet my income goal? How am I doing on my projects? How are they supporting my goals? Maybe there's a project I need to stop doing because it's not working. Start, stop, continue. And how are my systems and processes supporting what I'm doing? And this quarterly business review is absolutely critical. And you don't even have to have done all the planning I talked about to start the QBR process like right now.
That's true. And I love my QBRs because, and I want to give a good example is, say my annual plan, say I want to give it I love anecdotes. I'm sorry. You came to the anecdote.
Well, you're talking to lawyers. We love anecdotes and stories.
Okay, good.
So bring it on.
Good. So say I'm focused on DUI as an example. And my annual goal is I want to make $200,000 this year. In just gross. I don't know what your expenses are. I'm not figuring that out. Sorry. But I want to make 200,000. So per quarter, I have to make 50,000, right? And I know that in the first quarter, I made, sorry for my bad handwriting, it's with a mouse. I made 30K. Okay. I looked at my marketing and I had, let's say I had 30 leads and I converted 10% of them. So what did I get? I got 3 clients and they each paid me 10 grand each. I charged 10 grand for a DUI. This is working out pretty good, right? But I wanted to make 50. So, right? I'm missing 20K, or how many leads do I need to increase in order to get a better conversion rate at 10K a pop? Well, maybe I need 50 leads at, 5 customers, or maybe I'm looking at that and I say I need to increase my sales, which is an internal system and process, in order to make sure that I'm closing more customers to meet my income goal. And what projects was I working on that brought me those leads? And which projects was I working on that didn't bring me enough leads? And as you review this quarterly, you can start making tweaks to your annual plan that help you really get aligned with what your goals were. So if your goal was to make the X amount of money or bill X amount of hours, you can see how this might align and help you make changes as the year goes on. So let me erase my drawing that I'm so embarrassed
You
of.
love that. You love that technology. It's like the old overhead projectors. You get the grease pens. You can write on them. Now we're
Yeah.
really dating. I'm
Well,
really dating
unfortunately,
myself
my
now.
handwriting is not much better than what I just did anyway. So
So, so yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things in business, and the simple retail equation, a retail store. I used to be a chief operating officer of a chain of jewelry stores, and it's very simple, and the same is true for lawyers. What's the traffic? Who comes into your door? Just like Nick was illustrating. How many of those do you convert? Of the ones you want to convert, because not everybody who comes in your door you want to convert. They're not all A clients. And then what is each one worth? And if you're not making the money you want to be making, it's either it's one of those three things is a factor. Maybe it's not the right traffic or enough. Maybe you're not converting enough, or maybe you're converting too much on lower value clients. So thinking about this like a business is going to be really helpful for you, because you have two jobs, right? You're the lawyer that provides the service. You're also the entrepreneur that runs the business.
imagine thinking of it like a business.
And well, yeah, because it is one. So the essential quarterly questions: how did we do? Again, just to recap, our progress to the goals. Was I working on the right goals? It's possible you set a goal and wasn't what you wanted.
Mhm.
How were the results? What actions did we take? What flopped or what worked best? So many of the lawyers need to not make mistakes. Nick, holds us back in building a business, because business is about making mistakes, learning, and recovery. And if you're not out there making mistakes, you're probably not working hard enough. Now, I'm not suggesting you're intentionally making mistakes with your clients, but you have to be pushing the envelope to try to grow your practice. So what did you learn, and how are you going to cycle it back in? And one of the things that I think, in my experience with coaching lawyers for more years than I can count, is the fact that we try to do too much ourselves, especially in small firms. And it's a control issue, but it's also not knowing some of the essential business skills, because nobody taught you. And one of the most essential skills to achieve the goals and learn how to grow is delegation. And we love this quote by Richard Branson: you've got to learn to delegate and do it well. Sadly, this isn't taught in law schools. What you learn from the partners who are teaching you were probably not very effective. Delegation by fear and abdication doesn't work. Micromanagement and substituting their judgment for yours didn't work. Now, delegation is a gigantic topic. In fact, we've got a number of training programs for that at Summit Success. So for today, I want to just cover a couple basics. And this is the big idea. You must be clear on the specific task that you are delegating and how it fits into the big picture, the why. Delegating without telling the person how it fits in is a huge mistake. You need to make sure the person is capable of doing the task and they have the resources they need, which includes access to you. You need to have very clear expectations, and we talk about that as SOPs and checklists. A huge problem with delegating is that we lawyers haven't fully thought through what we expect. We assume too much, and we're in such a hurry, we don't take the time. And then we get frustrated at the person we delegated to, that they're coming back to us. If your person keeps coming back, it means that you weren't clear on your delegation. You need to follow up, make sure the tasks are understood, and answer questions. Now, one of the things to talk about is, well, you might be saying, I'm a solo. I don't have any budget. I don't have any money to delegate to anybody. It's just me, myself, and I. And I get that. And most small firms who want to grow learn to delegate to others, even if they're contractors or they're part-time. They will, one of the most effective things is to hire a bookkeeping service. And the other one is actually the service that Nick and Answering Legal provides, is that frontline contact with your clients so you can protect your time and do the legal work they're paying you to do. So
You're so right.
Go ahead.
I just want to, yeah. So I've learned about delegation through experience. As Joe will tell you, I'm a reformed control freak. where I used to have everything. I used to have everything done exactly my way, exactly on my time. Joe, if you say I'm not reformed, no comment. He says, I knew he was going to say something too. I freaking worked with this guy too long. But it used to matter so much to me, like show your work, right? And then I realized that not only are there multiple ways to do something, but other people are better at doing certain things than I am. And a really successful lawyer who I had on my podcast once laid it out for me that I have to make a list of things that I do. And on that list, I have to separate them into 3 categories. What do I like to do? What am I good at doing? Oh, I think it's 4 categories. What am I bad at doing? And what do I don't like doing? So it's 4. I should keep the things that I like to do and that I'm good at. I should focus on delegating the things that I am bad at and don't like. And then as I continue to grow and make decisions and move up, right, I can hand off the other things that I'm not good at that maybe I do like to do, or maybe that I don't like to do, but I am good at. And I learned to hand those things off. But in my business, sometimes that forces me to give away a task. So a lot of lawyers, you guys are control freaks. I speak to a lot of you. And there's this fear that so what I do is I have a call center. It's a specialized answering service for lawyers. And a lot of lawyers don't believe me. They're like, no, you're outsourcing your calls to overseas. Well, no, I'm not. Yeah, reformed. I tried my best.
Keep going. I didn't mean to throw you off your mojo.
No, it's just funny. And no, you can't answer the calls the way I want you to answer them, or you won't talk to my clients the way that I want you to talk to them. And you might on a certain level be right. But I can still do a really good job and allow you to focus on the things that you like to do that you're good at, which I can tell you for certain is, for some of you, appearing in court, working on a case. I can't imagine anybody would like filing documents or anything like that, but so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying. I am not a lawyer myself, so I don't take pride in any of that, but I know that I like to host webinars and work on podcasts. So what did I have to do? I had to delegate the script writing of a podcast. I had to delegate the guest finding of the show. Maybe some content writing of my website. What does that look like in your firm? What can you get off of your plate so that you can focus on providing value to your clients and joy in your daily tasks?
Yes. And I was in outsourced logistics for 13 years. And there's this illusion that if you're doing it yourself, you're in control. And one of the things I like, Nick, about what you all do is if you're a solo lawyer and you've got your paralegal trying to answer the phone, you're not trained in how to get that person to do it right. You're not sitting there listening to what he or she is saying every time. You don't have policies and procedures to check to teach them and help them improve, but answering legal does. So they can provide a much higher level of supervision and training and quality control than any individual lawyer can. And when you set up your SOPs, you can do everything from how they're going to answer the phone to how they deal with certain things to, hey, if this client calls, there's a special procedure. And why should you be the one trying to figure out how to do all that? Why wouldn't you just bring somebody else on to manage that for you so you can work on being a lawyer, doing the things that require a law degree or doing the things that only a business owner can do? Because no entrepreneur has ever done this by themselves. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. And if you want to be successful, you have to have the right people around you. I see so many lawyers who are proud, and they should be. I am a true solo. I do everything by myself. I don't even have a paralegal. Great. If that's the life you want to lead, amazing, awesome. That's not going to be a sustainable business, because when you go on vacation, well, who you're kidding. You don't get vacation. So you need people on your team. That includes employees or contractors, business partners, a board of advisors, which every small business owner should have, a coach, even your family and friends. Without the right people supporting you, and helping you achieve your goals, you're likely to fail. Sir Richard Branson did not become Sir Richard Branson all by himself. Steve Jobs, same thing. Bill Gates, same thing. Elon Musk, same thing. They put the people around them to whom they can delegate and who will lift them up. So most really successful entrepreneurs not only delegate or outsource, they also enjoy the support of an executive coach. The right coach will help you overcome the obstacles you find in your practice and build it in the way you want. They'll help you hold yourself accountable and protect your most important asset, which is you. So you can enjoy living the life that you want right now, not when you're 65 and somehow mythically retire.
So I just want to give a quick shout out to Doug because we work together on these webinars and providing value for our clients, but in such a short time and without even really any work on my part, he's completely understood my business and has even coached me. I just willy-nilly send out calendar appointments, and he said something to me the other day about how I didn't allot the correct amount of time for this appointment and how what other people expect to give me the time that I need. So I've already changed that. But I know we shared a lot of insider secrets today, right? And after this program, you'll get links to Doug's annual and quarterly planning templates that we've talked about. And those are a really good start. But I want to give everybody here permission to actually do what we're talking about, to actually work on your business instead of in your business. So what Doug and I have crafted as an offer for everyone is that it's a mutually provided offer. If you sign up and get a free trial with Answering Legal, we're going to give you 400 minutes to use at your discretion, completely free, no credit card down. Don't worry about it. It's free. If you decide to become a paying customer, totally different, right? But if you sign up for that, you also get a free coaching call with Doug to set it up. I'm on the wrong slide. Thank you, Doug. Sorry. And it's just because I'm excited about this offer is that I want to give everybody permission to have a free coaching call where you can get real feedback from somebody who focuses on this all the time. And we do these webinars and trainings all the time, right? We see the same regulars who come to the training. And listen, there's good stuff in these. I don't want to take away from like the hard work that we try to put into this. But if you're coming back, that just tells me that you're not making a lot of progress, and we want to help you with that. So the offer is get one, get the other, right? And that's a one-on-one conversation about your business with Doug. So Doug, I know you want to talk a little bit about your plan for what you would have on the first call with like a coaching client, right?
Yeah. So at the start of every year, we sit down and set resolutions for the coming months. We want to change our bad habits and finally achieve those long-term goals, maybe have time to take an actual vacation. And by the end of March, most people have already given up on their resolutions, just trying to survive. Why is it that we're successful at setting goals but can't follow through? And the answer is we don't plan. The quarterly review is essential. And this process is essential. And I see this, Nick, with lawyers all the time. We will attend CLEs, we'll attend webinars, we'll gather information, and then it sits on the desk gathering dust. And that is not consistent with my why or yours. We want you to be in action. So if you're looking for a way to achieve your goals and help you stay on track, I want to invite you to sign up for a strategy call. A private coaching client of mine told his retired father that he was working with a coach, with me, to help him in his business plan and create something new and exciting for the next 15 years of his career. He's a lawyer. His father had never heard of such a thing. So my client explained exactly what we were doing. A lot of it was planning and what we'd accomplished in the last 3 months and the difference it was making for him. This is a really successful guy who had already built a business. And his dad's comment was, but he wished that kind of support existed when he was in his 50s. And even if you're not in your 50s, I'm not limited to 50s, right? But you've been practicing for a while. So if you're sitting there thinking you might be ready for a coach, that this might be something you should look at, you're ready for a strategy call. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to identify one of your challenges. I'm going to give you some specific tips for your business, whether it's around planning, you decide. Should be around this, it doesn't matter. You're going to walk away with something new to try, and you're going to discover what coaching's about, experience what it feels like, and see if it might be a fit for you. Now, I don't work with everybody. I have a boutique high-end coaching practice where I only work with very specific people. But even if you don't think you're one of those people, let's have a call because you're going to get something valuable. There's no charge. There's no obligation, nothing to sell, just a chance for us to be in service to you, consistent with the why that we talked about, and mine of, I just want to make you better at your business. You can enjoy your life. You know, as a lawyer, you ought to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labors, the rich freedoms and rewards of the work that you do. And this is a really challenging time. And we're at an inflection point. And inflection points can be unsettling because they feel like you know which direction you're going in, but you really don't. There's an opportunity to expand your practice into a business. So it's our great privilege and gift to be able to have spent this time with you today. I want to encourage you to talk with Nick. The link is in the chat for the free trial. To go to my website, summitsuccess.com/call Doug, sign up for a time, and let's have a conversation. Because at the end of the next quarter, where will you be? That's your task as we're coming up on a weekend. By Sunday, what are your specific goals for the next quarter? And within the next hour or so, you're going to get an email from me, which is going to have the annual planning template, the quarterly planning template, the slide deck. You'll have to download them, as well as the Imagine What's Possible exercise. And if you need help with any of that stuff, we can do that on a call as well. Thank you for being here, Nick. Thank you for being a wonderful host for us. Do you have any parting words for our contestants today?
No, I want to congratulate everybody for making it this far and caring about yourself enough to listen to a coach like Doug, who I can personally attest is a really good coach. I've received coaching before, but Doug, you're a great friend. You're a great coach, and I really hope everybody takes you up on our offer, because they're worth it, and listen, you get one shot at life, so you might as well live a good one.
100%. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for hanging in with us today. And look, we finished before the top of the hour. Success.
I don't know how that's possible, because you and I are the most talkative people that I know.
Well, I hope it's been useful for everyone. Take a few minutes before you go, everybody goes back to your next thing. Write down one thing you're going to do, one thing you learned, and then put it in your calendar and get into action. Bye for now.